Hi, I'm Charlie Montotuela, and this is Left Behind Natives, the podcast that amplifies the voices of those too often left out of the story. Here we uncover the history, culture, contemporary issues shaping Native lives today, one conversation at a time. And today, actually, is going to be a really great episode. I've got some others lined up like this, and I'm really hoping that that I can tell you that they're all my favorite as well. But this one here is going to have to be one of my absolute favorites. Today, I'm interviewing Pura Fé Antonia Crescione. Uh, Pure Fay, as we all call her, is a very, very good friend. Just such an amazing human being. I've actually known her for a short while. I know we talk about some different things during the episode that will kind of let you know. And I say short while, but I guess since my youngest son was about 4 years old and he's 18 now, so I guess it's been 14 years. Not my whole life. We didn't grow up together or anything, but Pure Fay is an amazing human being, an amazing ally to Native American people, an amazing Native American woman. I've looked back over everything she's done in preparation of making this episode and thinking of the things that she has done, and hope that we could cover some of them, hopefully to enlighten and inspire other people that maybe you know either feel like they should just give up, take what's given them, or what have you. All I can tell you is that Pure Fay has inspired me and my family. My wife and I have listened to her music since forever, and then our children since they could walk. It's just really, really amazing. So I'll have to let you enjoy, I guess, on your own instead of me spoiling it all right here. But I did want to give you a heads up. Also, this interview that we did, just another little kind of a heads up. It wasn't done here in the studio or out on site. It was done remotely, and we have so many resources for remote interviewing and what have you. But this one we had to fall back on one system to make sure that it came through, and I'm very pleased with it. Not necessarily the same interview style we'll see with all futures, but something that I really enjoyed. Like I say, Pure Fay, just being in her presence and listening to her speak is magical for me. And with that, I'll let you enjoy it from here.
To our elders who teach us of our creation and our past, so we may preserve Mother Earth for ancestors yet to come, we are the land.
This is dedicated to our relatives before us, thousands of years.
Those who escaped removal and slavery survived the years by sacrificing tribal identity. Those who escaped.
So, Pure
Yeah.
Fay, if you would please, just as a kind of a brief introduction, tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, I've known a lot about you. I've read a lot about you, and listened to so much of your music through my lifetime and my kids' lifetime. But tell me about you. I want to know what you know about you.
That's a really big question. So, good morning.
from northern Saskatchewan. And yeah, I'm not from here. I was born and raised in New York City. And I was raised with my mom and her side of the family. And they're all music, lots of singers. And so I grew up with that environment. My grandparents, her parents, moved up from North Carolina, which is where pretty much most of all my family on my mom's side is from North Carolina. And my father is from Puerto Rico, and I didn't really know him. And he didn't raise me, but I had a little contact growing up here and there. And I did fly to Puerto Rico when I was 7. Anyway, he also was a singer. So there's a lot of music. I am a musician. I'm a singer. And I grew up also part of the urban Indian, like part of the American Indian Community House. And a lot of what I do today stems out of there in terms of where I travel. And so I grew up with, my mom was a singer with the Duke Ellington Orchestra.
Wow.
And so I had a lot of that. Yeah. And so I had a lot of, she sang for his sacred concert series. She was one of the lead singers. He would usually travel with 3 to 4 singers, usually 2 men and 2 women, and they each would do different compositions from his sacred concert series. And so he would travel to different delegations, and the choirs there would sing all the vocals, and then the leads were the 4 singers, and my mother was one of them.
That's amazing.
And I found out later through the years, yeah, it was beautiful. I traveled a lot with her and with the orchestra, the band. And so I grew up with that sound. And one of the musicians was Joanne and Diane Shenandoah's father, was Clifford Shenandoah. So he played guitar for Duke. And one day we realized that we were the kids that were running around backstage and like eating all those food off the green room tables, like stacks of cookies, and just being wild. And anyway, so, yeah, there's a lot of Native people in jazz and in blues, as we know. And so that's one of the things I definitely like talking about and exposing, and just the music itself, like a lot of where the roots of a lot of American music comes from. And
Right.
I like talking about that also because of my mixture. And whereas my grandparents are both Tuscarora on their maternal sides, and then they have all these other mixtures as well, as African and Scotch and Welsh, and just and in the areas of where my family comes from. And so, I trained in New York. As I trained in ballet. I did a lot of children's roles and parts, commercials, and some Broadway shows. And my mother put me into show business at a very early age. So, and I went to a school called Lincoln Square Academy, and some of the alumni, some of the other students that were there when I was there, were all in different grades. Was Ben Stiller, Irene Carroll, who was my best friend for a while. And there was Stephanie Mills, Robbie Benson, Giancarlo Esposito, and Lawrence Fishburne, Pia Zadora. There's many more, and some of them their parents were in show business. So we were in the school. It's a tiny school, okay? It was a tiny school. And we would be able to go on the road with truck and bus tours type thing. And we would be giving correspondence, which was really a joke. It really wasn't anything. But
No. Well, to be honest with you, I'm not
yeah,
fond of the school system here in the States today. I'll tell you a little story. My three kids all were homeschooled. My daughter at one point decided she wanted to go to a acting slash music school. It's called Alabama School of Fine Arts. It's one of the top 10 schools, and it's great. And she went there, and it didn't actually meet her expectations. I won't say anything else about it in the recording, that you know what I mean, but it just wasn't at her level. And then my youngest son, my oldest son graduated from homeschool, did great. My daughter is about to graduate from Auburn University right now, who went to ASFA. But my youngest son, his last 3 years of homeschool, he said, let me do this in public school. And when he went there, uh, I told him every day it's like he's taking a vacation because he didn't have any work. You know, I don't know if it's because of our rural area we live in or what have you. My wife did like you though. She completed a lot of hers, like correspondence, like you said, and that's how she finished her school level. And hers, I guess it was okay, but it's not really my thing either. And I did great in high school. I graduated the top 10% of my class. I was approached by the CIA and the Navy and, people that wanted me to go to work for them. And it's just not, I'm like you, I'm a musician. I have to have my music around me. Um, I don't know if you remember, but when we first met, my youngest boy, Makani, actually was playing a piece of your music on stage at Moundville, and my friend Greyhawk Perkins, who is like every Indian kid's granddad. I mean, he doesn't say no to anybody. When you walk up to him,
yeah,
he's reaching in his pockets for candy. But Greyhawk was the MC, and he's like, "Sure, Matani, go up there, 4 years old. Let's see what you got." And he sang one of your songs, which was just amazing. But
yeah. I
but that's
remember. Yeah.
that's what he's doing is music in college right now. He went to college a year early because he graduated high school a year early. But you know, even watching him go through college, I just don't. It's not what it was that I went through in high school when I was a kid. This is so easy. I mean, I don't know what the idea is with the American education system today, and I'm sure it's the same throughout Europe and everywhere else. It's kind of something else. But about your music, what'd you like the most? Probably the blues, I bet, right?
Well, no, I mean, it's no. See, I'm such an unlabeled person.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
what I like the most is probably, um, I love traditional music from anywhere,
yeah,
anywhere in the world. It just has the most beautiful grounding sound. And so growing up, I had collections of records that were from everywhere. And my mother would bring home these records because she worked with a Greek steamship company or something. And they had all these records, and she would just bring them home. And they were from everywhere. There
yeah,
was from Japan, and I mean, everywhere. And so that really inspired me, I think, just all the different sounds from all over the place. So I don't have a favorite kind of music. I listen to
yeah.
everything.
Right. I
So
ask because
what comes out of me, yeah, huh?
it seems like the blues is something that you represent a great deal. I know that like myself, I love listening to everything, but it seems like what people ask me to play and what I wind up playing is just all flute music, and it's kind of like,
Right.
Charlie's going to put me to sleep, and that's what I'm known for is putting people to sleep.
Aw. Well, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, because early on, just being part of the powwow circuit and dancing and so forth. But I started to get more wanting to know the music from where my family came from. Because powwow music was not from where my family comes from. And so in our region, and I was constantly asking my grandmother, what did the music sound like when you were a child? Like, what did you all hear? And she, it was hard for her to explain, but once I started playing, once Ulali began, and she heard our songs in the early days, she was like, oh, that sounds just like how we sang, only we weren't using drums, we had shakers, we were using rattles, she said, and we did all this foot stomping and shuffling, and I was just like, okay. So it brought me into sometimes it just takes a little thing to trigger them. She's elderly, but she wasn't that elderly then. But and so her and her sisters sang. So the songs that I heard and going to stomp dances and so forth, you hear, it's very clear that you hear the scale and you hear the rhythms and so forth. And it's just like, okay, this is part of blues. It's not blues as part of that, but this is part of Southeastern song and dance, and even Northeastern. So it's just all of that, and the rhythms and round dance beats are a shuffle rhythm, and so we decided we were going to start creating our music based on that. And the things that Grandma said and her sisters, they used to sing together. And she says that they won the county fair every year. And so that's, so once I heard that. And also I went to see Jim Pepper when I was 17 years old at a concert with my girlfriend, Cindy Taylor, who took me. And her family's from, her dad's people are from Indian Woods in North Carolina, which is where the old Tuscarora reservation is from. So half her family's from that community. And so, there's things that we didn't know when we were young, but we started to put pieces together. And so we went to see Jim Pepper play, and he talked about stomp dance music and the roots of it and so forth. So that was, I really needed to hear that. Later on, we met him and we began to work with him, and that was before he passed away. And for those who don't know who Jim Pepper is, he is a really well-known jazz saxophone player. He was Creek and Call. His family's from Oklahoma, but he was born and raised in Oregon. And when I go to Europe, and I did a lot of touring and work in Europe on my own with my solo work, and everywhere I went, there were well-known jazz musicians would come up to me and say, we were friends of Jim Pepper. We loved Jim Pepper.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So he was very, he was very revered all over Europe and mostly in France. Yeah.
I do know a lot of the French and a lot of the German do have an amazing appreciation for Native Americans today. At least it seems that way. I have a lot of French customers and German customers. German's my second language, but we have a lot of customers from both France and Germany, and we used to have them from Russia too, up until about 8 years ago, and then because of American ties and what have you, it's been difficult back and forth. But I've had people from there message me, and so Native American culture is known pretty well all over the place, but there are some people that really seem to have an appreciation for it. I have some philosophies about that one day I would love, of course, not on this podcast, but I would love to share with you, because I've done a lot of my own studies, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but there was a musical instrument that came over with the Africans to the Americas called the quill. And the quill were a type of like a panpipe, and early African panpipe, and they called them the quill because it looked like on the back of a porcupine's, like the movement of those. And I've made a set of those for a Chicago blues singer who, asked me, and we worked together on it forever, and did some looking into it. But I think that African American and Native American culture is really what the blues were born out of. It's there's so many people throughout history that you can pinpoint and say this person did this part of it. This person did this part of it. But the blues, I like it. Like we're talking, I'm always getting asked to play my flute instead of playing anything else. But I do like the blues, and of course I've got blues music I play on the flute too, coincidentally. As a matter of fact, I was listening to your song earlier that you had sent me, the Rise Up Tuscarora Nation, which I'm going to post a link to that in this podcast. But I was listening to it and I was thinking, oh man, the flute would go really good with this. There's so much of that that's just tied together. The flute is a minor pentatonic instrument, and so it goes good with anything like that, and old Christian music and anything that's minor, pentatonic. But that's something else. And of course too, it's nice when you go to another place like France or Germany, and you talk to those people, and they recognize the music that like our heroes and our teachers taught us. It's amazing. I've spent a lot of time in Mexico, and when you were talking about him being part Creek, it reminded me, now I'm sure you and I have both attended our share of stomp dances. I almost always do stomp dances with Creek Indians. I've done one with Cherokee, but I've done a lot, I grew up around Creek Indians. But I don't know if you've ever heard this before. So the stomp dance, I've spent a lot of time in Mexico, where you spent a lot of time in Europe. I'm thinking of retiring to Teotihuacan, Mexico. My closest friends in the whole world are there. But when I go there and I watch them do their dances are like fast motion version of our stomp dance. It's like speed run, stomp dance. Let me tell you a little secret that I learned in my studies of language and people and what have you. So the word that we say, Cherokee, for example, is not a Cherokee word. We've said that for a long time. Muskogee is actually a Cherokee word. In Cherokee, you pronounce it Mexicogee. Mexicogee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it is old philosophy I have read that Muskogee people came from Mexico.
Meshikogi.
Sure.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
you're absolutely right.
Meshikogi,
You're absolutely
because
right.
it's like Meshikogi. Yeah.
Meshkogi.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It means people from Mexico. Kogi, but
Okay.
anywho, well, tell me a little bit about your activism. And we were talking earlier about cancel culture and gatekeepers. These are terms that people are familiar with, but I don't know if they're as familiar with these terms from our perspective, because I've asked you several times about how to handle this situation and that situation with regards to what seems to be a Native American cancel culture in its own today.
Oh man, I was ready to jump more into the music.
I know, and that's what people.
You were going into the connection thing, and I was like, yeah, let's go into the connection thing. Wait, sorry, we could go there too, please. Please, there's just the rattle.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
rattle is what's, there's drum, but then there's also a whole other culture around the rattle. And
Right,
so
right.
you'll find that not only in Mexico and down through the further, but all the people that are part of stomp dance culture, and you find that really heavy in Arawak people, whether it's in the Caribbean or it's throughout South America as well, and it, like, especially through Arawak and Carib tribes, they're all of it. all of it is all call and response. All of it's sacred fire and round and round and round and
Well,
anyway.
you know how the plains people are always saying we're all related.
Right.
And I know you and I've talked about like some people from the Lee family that I think we might share from Tuscarora, but there's you know, the more I look in it, and I don't know if my wife watches this podcast, I don't know if she'll be upset that I say this, but we've told all the kids, and I mean we all know, but her like eighth great grandmother who was from Edgecombe, okay, North
Well,
Carolina.
okay.
Her eighth
Yeah.
great grandmother is my, let's see, she's my sixth great aunt. So
Okay.
there's a lot of that, though. I mean, there's so much of that
Well, yeah.
that,
Well,
you know,
people had to leave and they went where yeah.
yeah,
I totally know this.
there's way so much of that, and people just don't know. When we say it's a small world, that doesn't really do it justice. You know, we're all related. We really are. You know,
Yeah.
you know, like the Arawak
And
people,
what
I've
was
actually,
her
it's Carden,
the
C-A-R.
name?
Yeah, her aunt's name, her last name is Carden. That's
Okay.
my, yeah, that's my cousin's father. We're actually that particular relation, we're not blood related through. That's my cousin's father. His mother was my aunt, but his father's side, his grandmother or great grandmother is my wife's. It ties up together. It's really amazing to me, and sometimes I look back through it, and you know, I've got a mild photographic memory, so when I see these names, I remember them. You know, I'm like laser focused on these people, and so sometimes when I talk to her about our family or something, or she's doing some genealogy of her family, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, let me look that name up because that sounds awful familiar, you know. And sure
Mhm.
enough, you know, it'll be somebody in my family tree. But there's a lot of that. There's so much of it that
Oh,
it's
yeah.
silly
A
not to
lot of
think
our
so.
people went down to Alabama. A
Oh,
lot of them
sure,
were there. They
sure,
went
sure.
there. And even we had Muskogee people up in, all up in our area as well. They came up. And especially during the Tuscarora War, there was a lot of different factions of people from
That's right.
different territories. You know, even Sac and Fox were in our area.
Hmm.
I mean, everybody traipsed
Yeah,
through
yeah,
there, and especially
yeah.
on the East Coast. But you
Shawnee
know,
and Catawba.
yeah. So the other thing that people never talk about, and what I've discovered and found other people's genealogy writings and so forth, and that's all up in the whole Virginia, North Carolina, northeast corner,
Hmm.
that whole area there, and where um, they dumped a bunch of Roma. Okay, were came there, lots of them, and we have all their last names, their surnames.
Oh, right,
These
right.
Roma people were from southern England, bordering like southwest part of Wales. So it's
Wales.
like that's a territory at that time. I don't know what it is now, but during the 1600s and 1700s, and a lot of them sailed over, and they were a lot of them they started living within the nations there, all the different
Absolutely.
tribes.
As a matter of fact, it's
So
funny that you mentioned that. I've got a couple of books here I borrowed from my library. This one is Pocahontas's People, and the other one is Powhatan Indians of Virginia. They're both written by Helen Rountree, Rountree.
oh yeah, I know who she is.
When I looked through
Yeah,
my ancestry, my DNA, my actual,
yeah,
you know, cousins, there's
yeah.
Rowntrees in my family because my dad's family all originally were from Virginia. Uh,
All right.
couple handful of them come from Pennsylvania and what have you, but the uh, the Rowntrees were, you know, from Virginia. And Helen, like I say, these books, are very inspirational when you start reading about other people's, um, you know, uh, family lines and what have you. I'll give you an example. Some of the names that I've read so many different Cherokee rolls. One of them is sour mush in the Cherokee rolls, but there are a lot of Powhatans with the last name of Mush. And some of the names in these books actually tell you that it comes from this or it comes from that, and they show how the name has evolved and what have you. My father's last name, for example, is different than my last name. My last name is actually from the mom's side of the family, but my dad's last name was Vaughn, and he always used to tell
Oh,
me the story of where the name changed from Vaughan to Vaughn. He said it was when one of his great granddads moved from Virginia to Tennessee, they dropped the A out of it. And of course, I know who that granddad was, and I know his wife's last name was Gunn, Gunn. If you spend much time in Virginia in that part, you might know some of those. But anyway, the names sometimes they change, which is amazing to me. Through the years, like McGee, for example, eighth great granddad Alexander McKee with a K. Down here in Alabama, it's all McGee's with a G, and it just kind of like it evolved. The name just turned into something else through the years. But we all get that, and we're all made up of so many different things today, you
right.
know, that
Well, yeah, why I brought it up was because they brought their fiddles.
oh, sure, absolutely,
So it's
absolutely.
like, so they brought all their music, and then Romans and Celts, they were all bringing that with them, and so that is really alive within all these communities throughout the years. In the eastern part of Carolina, it started early, and so you have all this music from all these different cultures. And to
Yeah,
me, that was like there's different branches of that coming together,
right.
and you know, and so it's like early country music, and a lot
Yeah,
of it like black string bands, and you know, and what eventually became blues. But in some
sure.
of my family, it was like the we have a long line of women singers, and at one point, the Blackwell sisters, um, their children that were also singers married African men that were from a Lee plantation, and their father was a Welsh and Tuscarora
Okay.
Roma,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and he was a musician. That also they played music, so all this music was coming out, and they married these women singers. So it's just like there was music going on.
Yeah, yeah. The one thing
So
that
that's
binds
to me,
us.
that's where blues music is also coming out of that as well. So all these
Absolutely.
different types of disciplines, and so for me, it's like I like to jump right into the music when it comes to who came to the table,
Yeah.
what did they bring, and so yeah.
Have you noticed too that when you go and meet a new group of people that oftentimes the music is what helps you to like establish some kind of cohesion with those people. That's well it was for me in Mexico anyway. When I brought my flutes down there and I played, my friend told me that we haven't heard any flute music in this area in years and years. Like he meant since before he was born. And my friend is almost 70 now, turning into a great granddad here soon. But anyway, that's how we hit it off, and that's once again my closest friends in the whole world are there in Teotihuacan. Mound builder people, of course, They build big pyramids, step mounds. But they connected right off with me through my music, and I figure that's probably the same for you. As soon as you start playing and singing, it's like everybody, they they feel like we're on the same page. That's what I see anyway. Yeah. Okay, a nice little intermission that I think we both really needed. So I know we weren't ready to segue into the whole uh, cancel culture and gatekeeper thing. And the first time I said activism, um, activism was a different thing, I think, when we were growing up, and even for the last 20 years than what it is today. Today, activism is not, on a lot of accounts anyway, not as active. It's mostly people sharing their troubles, and it feels almost like group therapy, I think, instead of so anyway, like we were talking, um, you know, I think that activism today has really uh, changed the shape of what it does. It doesn't seem to accomplish as much as it did in the old days, at least not in name. That is to say, there are a lot of people out there that are calling themselves activists, and they're fighting battles that don't really exist. I know, like in your time and the handful of battles that I've decided to take on, uh, you know, I feel like they were important, and the things that you've done and that I've seen you do, I think they're important. And, I feel like either the world's changing, or maybe the way that people perceive things is changing. And I think, maybe things are a little different today than they used to be, but it's more of, like you said, cancel culture than activism. That's what I think. What do you think about that?
Well, I see a lot of cancel culture out there. I think that just the social media has all its different assets. And I think that one thing that has been taken advantage of is just having a bunch of mainly young people are jumping on the computers and just throwing out any kind of whatever. And it almost feels like there's a movement of where young people are recruited and they're given a bunch of material to just pump out there. It's almost like
Yeah.
gaslighting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really strange. To me, activism isn't necessarily that. They're using that and saying that they're out there trying to protect the people, and it's really actually doing more harm. I have no problems with protecting the people, but this
Yes.
kind of thing is not what you do in public, like
Mhm.
public lynching and humiliating people and spewing all of their inside out everywhere. And a lot of it is tampered with,
Mhm.
rearranged, and just like bold lies,
Right.
and trying to match the couple of things that were really not real. So it's like they're trying to frame. It's almost like framing people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
very criminal, and it doesn't make the people look good as a whole. So
Right.
it's like this little the inquiry paper, or these hideous paparazzi magazines that you see. It's like suddenly we've grown this thing on the side of us where we don't need this, because we have so much great amazing stuff that's building, and you see fashion and language and everything just building. And even within the funding that's been coming through for a lot of grief and trauma and mental health services and people building camps and lodges and all this, all kinds of things is becoming available. I don't know now with this new presidency in the States and in Canada, it's there's a lot going on that's great. I mean, we have social media to help pump out the things that really are bad that's going on.
Right.
And then you have this sideshow. It's like a freak sideshow going on over there, you know, trying to like completely trash some very amazing artists and people.
Right.
So if that's what they want to be a part of, and that's, you know, I don't think they even realize just what it is that they're really doing. And I wish they did.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'll be honest with you. I even though, you know, we've talked about this kind of thing in private before, I've never shared this idea with you, but I'm going to share it with you, and only in general here, because I don't want to, you know, upset the wrong people, if you can imagine what I mean. But I feel, as you said, that it's like there's a campaign, and it's like they're getting paid to do this, you know, or they're getting something out of it. Maybe it's some kind of gratification that they're missing in their life, or possibly maybe they do feel like they're quote unquote protecting their culture. But when it comes to people, you know, like myself, I'm currently a member of a state recognized tribe. And if I'm not mistaken, the Tuscarora Nation just recently become state recognized. Is that right?
Not that I know of. I know they were going for that.
I thought
That
they
may have
had.
happened. I don't. Okay.
I know. I mean, it's neither here nor there in some respects. Doesn't
Yes.
change whether or not you're Indian, right? But
Right. Right.
there's a lot of people that have, especially when you're a member of a state recognized tribe of Cherokee Indians, not pointing any fingers or anything, but there's a lot of people that say that that's phony or fake, or that it's this or that. And those same people, I can show, for example, the Treaty of 1817, which is in Alabama, here in Alabama. The Treaty of 1817 gave land, 640-acre plots, to a bunch of different Cherokee people and some not Cherokee people. There's Muskogee people on that list too. It was a Cherokee treaty, but there's Muskogee people on that list. But one of them, for example, like William Jones, in 1818, he opened a court case with the newly formed state of Alabama, demanding that they give him citizenship. And he's one of the recipients of those land grants. They used to call them reservations back in the day, 640-acre reservation. But he received that. And if I show a person who is argumentatively thinking that they're trying to protect Indian culture, you know, if I show them this document and show them the proof and the treaty and the this and the that, they're like, this doesn't matter. It only matters if you were in Oklahoma between 1907 and 1909, and that's it. And I've called and spoke to the Historical Society, the Cherokee Nation's Historical Society in Oklahoma, and asked them, I said, let's say hypothetically somebody was related to Chief Jolly, for example, Chief Ahuladegi. Ahuladegi died at Weber's Falls in Oklahoma in like 1834. That's even before the treaty was signed that put them out there. I said, what if he died in Oklahoma and his daughter Sarah married somebody from Tennessee and they stayed in Tennessee and they had kids there? I said, is there any way that person, you know, the fifth great grandkid of this guy, could go and become a member of the Cherokee Nation? They're like, no, you know, it's in their constitution. You have to be a, you know, Dawes roll between 1907 and 1909. And of course, that's mostly true. However, of course, as I'm understanding it, Governor Stitt from Oklahoma, he was, his family and a lot of the people from the 1868, you know, rolls or whatever were put in there. But anyway, all that aside, a lot of these people won't read the black and white right here, and understand that this is how things are, they seem to be fighting their own cause, or maybe their idea of what their cause is. Like I said, I wanted to find a way to make a positive impact on people, and that's actually the biggest part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast, is because I want to share not just the struggles, but mainly the accomplishments. And you certainly are the most accomplished Native American I have ever had the honor of meeting in my life, and so I thank you so much for letting me interview you. But what is your take on this? What is there something we can do to help these people that seem to be struggling in their life, that they have to lash out at people and ruin people's lives and careers, and instead of focusing on the positive, I feel like they're hurting or something. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I mean, someone wrote me recently and told me to fix it.
Oh my gosh.
And what they're saying about me, and I don't know. I mean, I just think that eventually that it's going to fizzle out anyway, because people are getting tired of it.
Sure.
It's becoming like doesn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
And this shouldn't be done out of anger. It should be something that's private.
Sure.
And it really needs like almost like a restorative justice type of situation, where you have two parties sitting facing one another, and you have there's someone facilitating, where they just do what they need to do privately behind doors. This is not the type of thing we need to have out in the open. And it's almost like they're over sensationalizing, and they're getting I guess they're becoming somebody in this. You understand? So,
absolutely.
And I don't think this is the right thing to become somebody about.
Yeah.
This is, they could be doing something different that they could really be known for. And someone brought it to my attention that a lot of the people that are doing this are those that are adopted or have been in situations where they did not have their family or their people. So, this may be a way where they can, become a part of their people and doing something that they think is just.
Right.
I mean, there's so many layers to this.
Yeah.
So, but I do, and the fact that someone's writing a book, and it's all really, it's not good. They need to be doing something different, in my own opinion. They could be doing some really cool stuff. They could be tracking and writing about all the things that all these missing and murdered women and children and men, like that, to me, is something that they could be doing. But this other thing is really not that important. It really isn't. They don't really hurt us. These people that do pretend. It doesn't. I think it was so shocking for everyone with whatever happened with Buffy. And so it's almost like they're trying to, it's like, as they've been calling it, a witch hunt, and they're trying to find other people. But what I notice is that they are targeting people who are successful.
Right.
So it's like they're trying to find the same situation over and over. And it's just, that was a very isolated and a one-of-a-kind kind of thing that happens every now and then. That's always shocking, like that story about that man named Gray Owl. So I mean, and it's more, to me, it's more entertaining than anything. It's not anything that's, it's funny, it's wild. It's like, what? Wow, that's really crazy, So it's kind of like your Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of thing, if you ask me. I don't think they really,
shock and awe.
And the truth is, some of them do bring some really amazing things to the table.
Sure.
So it's like, but going after people like Lily Gladstone and I mean, they've gone through so many people trying to, and I'm like, what is the purpose of this?
Right.
So you think about that, and you think, well, there must be an underlying something that's making this happen, and who's funding this?
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's a movement to pull things down. Anytime Indian people do become very powerful and really strong, something will come in and plant a seed of suspicion and
Sure.
negativity. That seems to be a pretty well-known formula
Yeah.
that is played out many times over.
Right.
And
I can
so
tell you,
to me,
I
it
can,
looks kind of like that.
yeah, I can tell you from my own experience. There's one of those people who I've dealt with, from afar, but they didn't grow up around their people. They did grow up with their biological mother and father, but didn't grow up around their people. They grew up in a whole different area. And I think that disconnect makes them yearn to find a way to reconnect with their people. And certainly we need warriors that are willing to stand up, and put the right back in what activism used to be, instead of trying to cancel or be the gatekeepers of who each of us are, what have you. I'll give you an example. I'll promise you I was going to share you this one example because it's kind of comical to me. But one of those, I'll say, groups that I've dealt with, they got off on a tangent in my family. My dad's family, most of them, like I say, trace most of them back to Virginia, a couple of them to Pennsylvania, but they all came in from there, and they mixed with, lots of people. But there's 8 different tribes that they all, represent of Native people. My dad's family. My mom's not so much. My mom was a little bit easier than that. Her dad's from Wisconsin, from La Crosse, and then her mom was from Panama. And I knew all about Grandma from Panama. I grew up with her. She's, as a matter of fact, on Mom's side of the family, the one that I had that was alive. These people, and I'm not going to use words like deranged or anything colorful to try to set the mood, but these people who previously in my life have been my siren or sounding horn anyway, they all claim that my grandmother was from Puerto Rico, as if that made her less Indian than being from Panama. And it's amazing to me that they try to focus on any little sensitive area, but I know where my grandma was from. I know all about her people and where she lived and grew up and when she met my granddad. But they found something, and they decided to become a stranger that I didn't hire to do my genealogy for me. Is what that is. And my wife Jessie, she reminded me. She said, make sure you ask her what she thinks about these unhired, unprofessional strangers who do our genealogy for us. What's your opinion of that? What do you think about that? I don't know if they've done that to you, but they've done it to a lot of people. But
Oh yeah, they have. They've done it to a lot of people, yes. And a lot of times they crisscross your genealogy with other people, And how our names within our families are used over and over again through the generations and different branches and so forth. And
Sure.
so it's a constant, there's I don't know, 6 or 7 Joel Hudsons in Sampson County during the same year. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just, so I mean, it's ridiculous to even think to try and take the time to even give them any energy in their tactics and what they do. All very it's an old formula, and they've dropped it into Indian country, and it works for a while. Not
Divide
for
and
long.
conquer.
Because, yeah, it's really about division. It's trying to bust up the power.
Right.
And at first, the one thing that they did was okay, but that doesn't mean you have to go after every single person, and especially those that are coming from communities. I mean, they're going right after people who are coming from communities.
Yeah.
And it's insane. And then they try to invalidate even that. They try to invalidate everything.
Right.
Absolutely everything that you put up there. And it's all paper. And
Mm-hmm.
it's all, to me, paper is just paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
That's right.
power. It's not real. What's real is, and that's why, to me, if anyone is going to be, they're not an authority on anybody,
Yeah.
so it's ridiculous.
Right.
And, and it's like they don't even approach a person. They just grab stuff and just throw it out there.
Yeah.
And hopefully people will listen. And a lot of people are stupid enough to listen and not find out for themselves, and
Right.
even
Right.
question the people that are doing this and what is this, and
Yeah.
so and they are the people, and they need to someone needs to help them, like figure out, oh, this is not cool. So
Yeah.
I really, I let go of all of it. I just like moved away from it. But then I decided, this also gives me a chance to help educate about genealogy or DNA and so forth, because I'm fascinated with DNA stuff. And I have a very famous cousin, Dr. Eric Jarvis, who's a brain neurologist, but he also, his colleagues are a part of the World Genome Project, and he also sequences like every kind of eagle and things like that. But
Oh, wow.
he's an overseer of like the human genome, one of the banks. And so he went to one of the conferences with all these different native scientists, genome people. And they all talked about how, it's unfair that they don't have any DNA from North American Indians. It's all South American Indian. That's all that's in these banks, these data banks. So only tribes that tie to these tribes from the South are going to show up.
Sure.
And so you've got tons of people who are like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah, right.
And so
right,
they show up with all these very strange combinations. They're like, what is this? We don't know anything about this. So in a sense, that movement has opened up a lot of can of worms, but at the same time, it's really a great way to let's take a good look. So for me, I ended up doing more deeper genealogy and tracing some of my family, and I was absolutely blown away at what I found out. And it's just, meanwhile, I thought all these plantation owners in our counties were like completely white people.
No.
And they were not.
No.
And they were like a mixture, and they ended up having to migrate down after the big Indian Wars, and they all came down together. They started their little homesteads, and so it's just, it's like, what? So, but at the same time, it made me understand the culture from that area and the music, and I'm like, no wonder, so I'm thinking about all the fiddles and the banjos and all these different peoples that, and when you look at my family, they are so interesting looking. As you see, my mom and her sisters, they're predominantly native looking, but you see they're also got some of this and some of that. And when you look back into the history, you see what happened.
Yeah.
So to me, this is an indigenous experience, you see.
Sure.
So it's like it was the women that ended up having babies for all these different people that came across the waters, whether they were prisoners from Africa or they were a bunch of gypsies or these Celts or wherever else they came from. It was the Indian women that also opened up the lands for them, because they were the ones that were taking care of the lands belonged to the mamas, and
Right.
people don't know that either. But
Well, you know
so
what's neat?
what it does is that it makes us have to explore history more. That's all.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are starting to dig up their genealogies and showing off, all these different kinds of. The thing is that they don't have. Is what they're doing is very colonized, and has nothing to do with the variety and of all the different peoples, and it cuts out and cancels out our connections to each other from the
sure.
different continents. We're not just one continent, we're 2+ islands on our sides. We are a huge people.
Right.
And so we have to stop chopping everything up like they did and putting everyone in boxes and categories and putting federal grade A, whatever. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. I totally agree with you. I definitely agree with you. It makes it difficult, it makes it difficult on other people when you have to fit a certain criteria, or you have to be like this, or you have to be like that, and then we all have to conform to this. Then they raise the bar and you have to do something else. It seems like it's never ending, and I think it's part of the struggle that we all go through today. I think as modern Native American people, you know. But well, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about today? I know you and I could talk for hours and hours and hours, and I know you've got responsibilities, so I don't want to keep you all day.
All the kids are coming in for lunch.
I
My
figured.
husband and we have 5 grandchildren, and I
That's
see other
incredible.
kids walking home. We
Yeah.
live in way up north in the boreal forest.
Uh-huh.
And they call this area as part of Treaty 10 territory. So it's all like Cree, Métis, and Dene people
Mm-hmm.
that live up here. And he said, and some Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been noticing a lot of foreigners are coming in, like they're beginning to work at the only grocery store that services like 10 villages or something like
Oh
that.
my gosh.
So these people they're other brown people, like they're
Yeah.
from the Philippines or Nepal and India and
Oh,
so forth. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
We
it's
we
interesting
traveled
up here.
to London last year, and we noticed there were a lot of people from India there. Lots and lots of people from India there. But well, Pura Fé, I have to tell you, it has been an honor. I hope that after you uh, hear about, read, watch, listen to this podcast, I hope that you'll agree to come back in the near future, because your music and your positivity and everything has shaped my life. And I promise you, I don't know how many of them have the opportunity to tell you, but it has also shaped the lives of hundreds of thousands of Native people. My little boy, to say the least, or my wife. My kids listening to music since they were teeny tiny. And it's really important that you keep on keeping on, and you and your beautiful family, your husband. I appreciate you all. If there's anything I can ever do for you, or help out with, or advertise, or anything I can do, I am always here. Okay, that's it for this episode of Left Behind Natives. I hope you enjoyed that. Of course, there are links for everything here and on the website for more information about Pura Fé, and that way you can listen to her wonderful music. Oh my gosh, that I'm so addicted to, and it reminds me of so many of the other musicians that are dear friends of mine that I'm looking forward to interviewing on this podcast as well. But like I say, check out some of those links, and definitely search for some of the music from Ulali, which is what I originally knew her best for. But her music's so powerful. It's just, as I said, it's addictive. It really is very addictive. And anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget, the voices of our people don't fade, they echo. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep the fire of our stories burning. Thanks again for joining us here today. I'm Charlie Montetuiela, and I'll see you again next time.